Good morning, everyone. This is Lori Delk-Radecki with the Nashville Networking Business Luncheon. So if you are watching this live online, we do these every single week, every Tuesday online right here on Zoom. And then we also meet 5 times all over Middle Tennessee right here in Nashville. The first Friday is Cool Springs. The second Friday is Green Hills. The third Thursday is Spring Hill, the third Friday is Hendersonville, and the fourth Friday is Murfreesboro. So if you're more mobile and you're getting out in public, you are welcome to join us at our different live meetings in person. And if you want to join us on Zoom, you are welcome to do that as well. If you're not in on our mailing list to see who our amazing speakers are each week, please join our groups on Facebook as well as LinkedIn, and also go to our website at NashvilleNetworkingBusinessLuncheon.com and sign up for our newsletter there. So our speaker today is Miss Megha Bradley. So please your attention.
Thank you, Lori. So it's been a while since I've shared this talk, and I don't know if all of you have ever heard me speak at one of the events. So I thought that I would revisit one of my favorite topics, which is hands, and how to actually use a little bit of insight the next time you actually get out and go shake hands with somebody over coffee, or have a sales conversation live and in person, or even on Zoom. If someone actually puts their hands up on the screen, then you can see it. So this is an interactive exercise. Chris, keep both of your hands on the steering wheel, please. I am going to go through and show you some cool things to notice about the neurology and the psychology about hands. Now, typically when people think of hands, and you see my little backdrop here, immediately people go, oh my gosh, do you like read fortunes and futures? And no, I don't. But there is a science called scientific hand analysis, which actually is used even by the CIA. And I could literally go get a job at the CIA if I wanted to as a profiler, and we're able to use the identification of certain features in the hands to identify certain subconscious and conscious psychological profiles of people. So of course you're like, great, now I'm going to sit on my hands the next time I meet up with Megha, and I want you to be able to use these tools when you're having a sales conversation next time. So of course this science has been validated by, there's 35,000 sets of handprints that the guy who established this did this, and that was validated by neuroscientists. So I am not just talking about some willy-nilly thing that somebody thought up one day. And so quickly about myself, I am a life and business transformation strategist, and I got into this work after a near-death experience back in 2014. I had somebody that spoke at an event that I went to. I ran to the back of the room. I paid over $1,000 for a reading on my hands because she helped me identify my life purpose and a lot of other things about myself. And it helped me to become more bold, more confident about who I was. Because many times we're given feedback and information and how to do stuff and strategies and all kinds of stuff from people who know little about us and lots about their own opinions. And I believe that you should be free of the opinion of others and live in your own self-expression. So that's why I got into this work. I went to school for almost 2 years to be trained in this. So I'm, as I said, a highly trained expert. So what I'm about to share with you is inside information that most people don't have, but now you get to use some of it for your own good. So we're going to start with thumbs. So look at your thumb. You don't have to hold it up on the screen. I'll hold mine up on the screen. There's something called an angle of opposition. It's the distance between, if you look at your thumbs, how low the thumb sits on your hand. Some of you, your thumb will naturally only be about this far from the pointer finger. Here's why this is important. Let's say you're having a conversation with someone. You're trying to convince them of your point of view, and maybe you're giving a sales pitch to them, but they have an angle of opposition that's like this. This is really a wide angle of opposition. I am an outside the box thinker. So if any of you have a thumb lay like this, which I usually when I talk to people who have this type, anybody want to say, yes, I have one of these low-lying thumbs? Yep, entrepreneur, yeah. trying to comply with other people's instructions and rules is not typically inside of the realm of people who have a low set of hands. So if you are going to hire a salesperson, it would kind of be good to have somebody who can go outside the box, right? They can get creative and innovative and not necessarily only follow your one little formula. If what you need is a dynamic salesperson. However, if you have a product or a protocol or something that's got a very strict and rigid type of structure, you want someone, if you're going to hire an assistant, you want that person to have less angle of opposition. So imagine now sitting, just naturally having a conversation with someone, you can tell how out of the box they think or how compliant they think. It's going to be easier to have a sales conversation and convince someone to just go the line of the sales pitch if they have very little space between those two fingers. Questions or comments before I move on to the next tip? All right, so the next piece is to look at the flexibility of the thumb. If you have a very flexible thumb, you tend to have the ability to see things multiple ways. So if you're having a sales conversation with somebody who's got a very flexible thumb, again, you can see this just from how they move their fingers. If they have a very flexible thumb, then you will likely be able to have a more interactive dialogue with them. And you might want to ask them questions like, oh, well, you know, what is it that you would like to see? What is it that you'd, you know, give me some different ideas. Using words and conversation that draws them into the psychology of getting able to be more flexible in their thinking allows them to feel like they get to make better choices and decisions. Versus if anybody has a really stiff thumb, very rigid thumb, don't try to waste your time trying to do a hard sales pitch on them because they have a very rigid way of thinking. Ask them what they want. Ask them how they would like something delivered. Ask them what color, size, whatever. Give it to them in a very, they tell you what they want way. So see how just the change in energy changes the dynamic of who's in charge of the conversation. And if you know by looking at their thumbs, which way their thumbs work, you have a little insight into how their psychology works. So then, one of the other things is how much space, you know, like some people have a very stubby upper thumb, the top of the thumb, the first third of the thumb. And if somebody has a very large upper third digit, notice mine is pretty much half my thumb. These people are extremely willful. They are stubborn. They are obstinate, and they are not going to bow to what you want them to do. So you combine that and that, you just pretty much ask them what they want. Versus the person who has a very stubby thumb, somebody has a very short upper thumb, that person is not highly willful, which means if you are the bossy one, you want to make sure you haven't bossed them around. So you want to make sure that you bring your energy down a little bit, be a little kinder, a little nicer, a little softer, so they don't feel pushed over by you. Because if you think about thumb wrestling, right? If you had to thumb wrestle someone with a stubby thumb and you've got the big thumb, you're going to overpower them. And that's not what you want when you're trying to convince somebody to ultimately adopt whatever it is that you're offering to them. So simply by understanding and knowing the way someone's thumb functions can actually change how you shift your energy. Because for many of you, you may only use one strategy for sales. But this way you become much more interactive and much more dynamic in the way that you talk to someone, much more convincing and much more adaptive. And when you're able to do that in sales, of course, you're much more relatable. So those are some of the tips that I have. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Lori, do you ever notice this type of stuff now that when you're having lunch with someone?
I do. I remember some of the things that you've told me. And so, yeah, anybody that's on here, if you haven't done, Megha did my whole hands analysis too. I did that with her, and it's amazing all the different things that she'll tell you. And then, yes, you sit there and start noticing it about other people of how they interact or how they hold their hand or shake your hand.
Yeah. So I think I got a couple more minutes, so I'm gonna give you a couple more tips. Thank you, Lori, for the shout out. So the next one that I'm going to talk about is very easily, you're able to spot this on someone without necessarily ever having them go, hey, hold your hands up. Now, if you want to have fun and be the center of a conversation in the middle of a party, go try that thumb thing out, memorize all those things I told you. You'll end up with lots of friends at a conversation in a party. I actually do, by the way, have times where all I've done is have a event or a booth or something where I'll sit there and like have hundreds of people come by me and I tell them something about themselves, it freaks some of them out, and some of them go, hey, that's really awesome. So this is like also a cool party trick. So the other thing is the pinky fingers. The pinky fingers represent communication skills. People who have very short pinky fingers oftentimes feel underheard. They have a challenge of speaking up versus those who have a longer pinky finger in proportion to you have to look at the proportions of the hands. But if someone's got a very short pinky, like you'll notice some people are like, their pinky is way down compared to the rest of their fingers. Those people need you to give them space to speak up. And so when you invite them to ask questions or to give commentary versus you constantly talking, because if you've got a, well-positioned pinky finger, you're really good at communicating and talking, that person feels much more acknowledged, recognized, and seen. Of course, that creates trust, right? So again, these are our little Jedi mind tricks, but they hold a lot in the way of psychology. And last and final piece of this is that if you're ever having a conversation with someone, and I am a great example of this. The dominant hand is the hand you show the world, whatever hand you write with. The non-dominant hand is the hand that you keep closer to the heart. And depending on how your pinky fingers are positioned, see this pinky finger is more evenly distributed across. All the fingers are evenly distributed. That means that my communication style is pretty comfortable with strangers. Whereas if I had a pinky finger that was way off to one side, I may not feel very trusting about my ability to communicate with someone. So depending on which finger which hand they write with, if their pinky finger is way off in the distance, again, inviting them to speak up allows them to feel more confident. And it also means that they may have a distrust of communication, or also they may be avoiding their creativity. So those are some little tips and tricks for the next time you're in a sales conversation or just out having a drink with a friend and you want to have some insight about how to treat that person right. Now, obviously, I haven't given you anything that you can really do anything underhanded with. Use these skills well, and they will make your sales easier, or they will make you more sincere and more connected and more present to the person that you're doing business with and that you're interacting with. So I hope that has been some information that's valuable to you and that you get to go apply it either for yourself, just noticing things about yourself, or go out and give it a try in the next conversation you have. That's it.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. So if you are joining us online, this is the end of our recorded version. We do have a full hour that we meet and network and exchange information offline too. So join us once again. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, join our group, Nashville Networking Business Luncheon, or go to our website at nashvillenetworkingbusinessluncheon.com and fill out the so you can join our mailing list and be informed of each one of our meetings and who our amazing speakers are. Thank you so much, Megha. Thank you for everyone tuning in.
Thanks, Lori.